What's the hardest punch or kick you've received?
The hardest punch I received was from a guy named Sugar Rashad Evans. He caught me with an overhand right. It was the same exact punch he punched Chuck Liddell with. It wasn't that he hit me so hard, it was the speed of the punch. I mean, you can tighten up and or you can just let your arm hang loose and just let it swing, almost like an overhand slap. Bro, he hit me so fast, I had no clue what it was. He just caught me right at the edge of my chin, and I remember my feet came out from underneath me, and I couldn't control my legs, and now I refocused, and I was able to stand. That was by far the fastest I've ever been hit, and thank God I didn't become unconscious, but I should have been.
I looked at his wife, I looked at his kids, I looked at everything. I looked at everything and who he was and how he lived his life. And I followed him all the way until the fight. Everything he said, everything he did, anything anybody said about him. And I dialed in exactly who he was.
You're not that important, Dominic.
Man, we'll see how important I am when you're on your back, though.
But you're a pawn in this game, bro. Like DC, all of them, bro. You're a pawn in this game. I'm trying to be great, bro, and you're just a part of it. Everyone's undefeated before they fight me, bro. You're not special, Dominic.
This is what psychological warfare looks like when it actually works. And Dominic Reyes just pulled off one of the most brilliant mind games in MMA history. While most fighters are throwing around generic trash talk and flexing for Instagram, Reyes was conducting a full-scale psychological operation against Jon Jones. We're not talking about your typical pre-fight banter here. This man turned studying Jones into a science project. He dissected every interview Jones had ever given, analyzed his body language in press conferences, studied his reactions to adversity, examined his personal life controversies, and built a complete psychological profile like he was working for the CIA. And here's what makes this absolutely wild. While Jones was probably looking at Reyes as just another challenger to add to his highlight reel, Reyes was developing genuine, unshakable belief that he could dethrone the greatest light heavyweight of all time. This wasn't fake confidence or manufactured hype. This was a man who had convinced himself through intensive study and mental preparation that Jones was beatable, that the aura was breakable, and that he was the one to do it.
Press conference, he realized I wasn't just a guy that he could just run over, and he thought he was going to do that. And then he started talking to me and hearing me talk and hearing my conviction and hearing my journey and how convinced I was that I'm going to beat you.
Let him have it. Let the kid have it, John. You've had a great career. You've done a lot of great things. This kid, he wants it. He's hungry for it. John, it's okay. It's okay if you come up short in this one. Just don't let him knock you out. And then I thought about that. It's a decision to give up on yourself. And something just as clear as that other voice.
But wait, it gets even crazier. During their face-offs and press conferences, you could actually see this psychological warfare playing out in real time. Reyes wasn't just talking. He was speaking with this authentic conviction that cut through all the usual fight promotion nonsense. And for maybe the first time in years, you could see something shift in Jones' demeanor. The man who had mentally broken Daniel Cormier, who had gotten inside the heads of legends like Lyoto Machida and Rashad Evans, was suddenly dealing with his own internal voice telling him to unleash everything he had. Think about that for a second. Jon Jones, the master manipulator, the psychological assassin who had dominated minds as much as bodies, was now hearing doubt in his own head. When Jones later talked about that internal voice saying, "Let him have it, John," he was admitting something huge, that Reyes had got to him in a way that very few fighters ever had. The pressure was real, the uncertainty was genuine, and even though Jones pushed through to get the decision, that crack in his mental armor was already forming. And that crack, it was about to change everything about how Jon Jones approached his career from that moment forward.
Not you, not today. And I just made the decision. Maybe you're going to win this one, but you're going to have to fight me. But we got, 23 minutes left? Yeah, we're going to have to fight. And we ended up getting that hand raised.
After a close fight with Dominic Reyes, Jones' dominance starts to look uncertain.
Going into the last round, I had Dominic Reyes 3-1 going into the last round.
At the same time, Francis is back on a knockout streak, so Jones calls out Francis.
Is Jon Jones going to go in and fight Francis Ngannou?
The aftermath of the Reyes fight absolutely shattered Jon Jones' mystique, and I mean completely obliterated it. For over a decade, Jones had this aura of inevitability. You stepped in there with him. You were going to lose, period. But suddenly, after 5 rounds with Reyes, that ironclad certainty was gone. Fans were split down the middle about who actually won the fight. Media members were scoring it for Reyes. Even some judges seemed unsure, making it one of the most controversial decisions in recent memory. And here's where it gets really interesting from a psychological standpoint. Almost immediately after this fight, Jones starts calling out Francis Ngannou for a heavyweight raise. Now on the surface, that looks like a champion seeking new challenges and bigger paydays. But dig deeper and you start to wonder, was this really about testing himself at heavyweight? Or was this about getting as far away as possible from a light heavyweight division where his invincibility had just been seriously questioned? Because think about it, after being pushed to his absolute limits, and having many people believe he actually lost, what better way to change the narrative than to completely switch weight classes and start fresh? It felt like a man who had just realized he was mortal for the first time, desperately looking for a new story to tell.
Jones asked for an unprecedented amount of money.
Told my lawyer he wants what Deontay Wilder was paid. I think it was $30 million. And for the amount of money he's asking for, it's not going to happen.
In response, Jon Jones vacates the light heavyweight title.
He dropped a bombshell on us. Where do we go with Jon Jones from here? I mean, it sounds like heavyweight's inevitable at this point.
Yeah, when he's ready to fight, he'll let us.
Now here's where things get absolutely wild from a business perspective. And this is where you really see how much that Ray's fight messed with Jones' head. Right after that controversial decision, Jones starts making these unprecedented financial demands. We're talking about money on the level of what heavyweight boxing champions were making, numbers that would shatter every UFC pay record. And when the UFC wouldn't meet those astronomical figures, Jones made the shocking decision to vacate his light heavyweight title and step away from competition entirely. For 3 years. 3 years? Let that sink in for a moment. This wasn't just a standard contract dispute over pay-per-view points or a few $100,000. This felt like a direct psychological consequence of what happened with Ray's. Had Jones' belief in his own invincibility been so fundamentally shaken that he now needed record-breaking money to justify taking risks in the octagon? Or was this whole thing a calculated strategy to avoid potential losses while waiting for the perfect heavyweight opportunity under ideal circumstances? Either way, the light heavyweight division moved on without him. New champions were crowned, and his entire career trajectory was permanently altered by this decision to walk away right when questions about his dominance were at their peak.
Decision for the UFC in recent memories.
This seems to be a shock to everybody, including Francis Ngannou.
It was shocking and funny at the same time.
I responded to his manager. He was saying we were shocked by this. I said, that's a bunch of bullshit. You knew this was coming if we didn't get a deal done.
What's bothering me is the fact that to promote that fight, they were trying to discredit me and pretend like...
If you don't want to fight, no problem. Fly around the world, go on vacations, and do whatever the hell you want.
And get this, while Jones was sitting on the sidelines making massive money demands, the UFC was simultaneously dealing with their own heavyweight contract nightmare with Francis Ngannou. The promotion's handling of the Ngannou situation sent a crystal-clear message about who really held the power in these negotiations. When Francis turned down a short-notice fight against Cyril Gane, the UFC immediately booked an interim title fight and started this public relations campaign painting Ngannou as someone who just wanted to go on vacation instead of fight. It was a masterclass in narrative control, showing exactly how the promotional machine could shape public perception when a fighter stepped out of line or demanded too much. Jones, having just gone through his own contentious negotiations and coming off that long layoff post-raise, had to be watching this entire situation unfold with intense interest. It was like a preview of what could happen if he pushed too hard or demanded too much. This whole Francis situation likely reinforced Jones' already cautious approach to his career decisions and made that potential heavyweight superfight even more complicated from both a promotional and financial standpoint.
The contract says that, not me.
Okay, so you will be done. Contract will be over December of 2022.
Time was now on Francis's side. His contract is about to expire.
Will it be a priority to get that done quickly, you think, as fast as you can?
Yeah. I want to get it done as soon as possible.
The UFC starts throwing millions at Francis.
We offered Francis a deal that would have made him the highest paid heavyweight in the history of the company. More than Lesnar, more than anybody.
But here's what makes the Francis Ngannou situation even more fascinating. The man was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. Ngannou understood something crucial about his contract that most fighters miss. He had time on his side. That 5-year clause in his UFC deal meant the promotion couldn't just sit on his contract forever without consequences. So he waited, and he leveraged that time brilliantly, forcing the UFC to throw increasingly massive amounts of money at him in desperate attempts to keep him. We're talking about offers that would have made him the highest-paid heavyweight in UFC history, numbers that completely dwarfed what previous champions had earned. And this entire negotiation saga was playing out in public while Jones was still on the sidelines, supposedly preparing for his heavyweight debut. The financial stakes that were being discussed, the level of control over career and image that was being negotiated, and the power dynamics between fighter and promotion were all on full display. This situation made Jones' own heavyweight aspirations infinitely more complicated, because the bar for what a mega fight should pay had just been set impossibly high by Ngannou's negotiations.
It's finally back. Jon Jones taking on Ciryl Gane in the vacant, undisputed heavyweight title.
The greatest fighter that the UFC has ever seen.
I can't ever remember energy like that when an athlete hit the stage. Shades of Conor McGregor. And of course, we have the consensus greatest of all time now fighting for that prize.
It's time!
To even compare Francis Ngannou or Ciryl Gane to Jon Jones, you can't even compare him to this guy. Anybody deny this guy is the GOAT anymore? I don't think anybody would deny it. Not only is he the greatest light.
After 3 long years away from competition, 3 years spent in this weird limbo where nobody knew what was happening with his career, Jon Jones finally returned to the octagon at UFC 285, stepping into the heavyweight division against Ciryl Gane. The hype surrounding this return was absolutely massive, with commentators and analysts practically ready to crown him the greatest heavyweight of all time before he'd even thrown a punch in the division. And honestly, the choice of Ciryl Gane as his first heavyweight opponent was brilliant from a strategic standpoint. Gane was skilled enough to make the victory look impressive, but he wasn't necessarily the most dangerous heavyweight Jones could have faced. This was clearly a calculated move designed to erase the memory of that controversial Ray's decision and re-establish his dominance in spectacular fashion. Jones needed a statement win, something that would rebuild that aura of invincibility that had been damaged, and he got exactly that with a first-round submission. But even with this impressive performance against Gane, the shadow of the Francis Ngannou fight that never happened still loomed large over the division. Because everyone knew that was the real test, the fight that would truly prove whether Jones could dominate at heavyweight the way he had at light heavyweight.
You're the greatest heavyweight of all time, and that's what I want.
But what the world really wants is a fight between Jones and Francis.
Do you have a response to Francis Ngannou referring to himself?
Francis is a big old put.
I want to announce you that I'm officially partnering up with the PFL. This is the best business decision I have ever done.
PFL is going to pay this guy to train for a boxing match that may not even happen and that they might not even be involved in. How does that make any sense?
With this move, the PFL and its founder, Don Davis, send a clear signal to every single UFC fighter.
I'm a top fighter.
Listen, the entire MMA world wanted Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou. That was the ultimate heavyweight superfight that would have answered every question about Jones' heavyweight potential. After his impressive return against Gane, the demand for this fight was at an all-time high. Fans were salivating for it, analysts were breaking down the matchup constantly, and it seemed like the most obvious next step. But instead of making this dream fight happen, we get one of the most shocking developments in recent MMA history. Francis Ngannou parts ways with the UFC entirely and signs with the PFL, effectively ending any realistic possibility of that superfight ever happening during the right time window. This development perfectly illustrates the dramatic shift in the heavyweight landscape post-Rays. Jones' long layoff, his massive money demands, his increasingly selective approach to opponents, combined with Ngannou's own legitimate frustrations with UFC pay and treatment, meant that the biggest fight in heavyweight history slipped away during the perfect storm of circumstances. It left fans around the world questioning whether Jones' more cautious approach to his career, perhaps born from that Ray's scare and the realization of his own vulnerability, contributed to missing out on facing the baddest man on the planet when it mattered most.
Yeah, I mean, it's life-changing.
That's the bullshit publicly that people believe, but that's not the truth.
Okay, so he would have made more.
Total,
okay.
Total bullshit. He would have made more money if he stayed in the UFC. So he didn't want to fight Jon Jones. That's a fact.
Everyone said he was an idiot for walking away from the UFC, and now all of a sudden he's a genius, isn't he? Guy's about to make $10 million. Come on!
Now here's where Dana White's public statements get really interesting and controversial. White claimed that Francis Ngannou didn't actually want to fight Jon Jones, which is a statement that a lot of people questioned and debated heavily. Whether that's actually true or just promotional spin designed to protect the UFC's narrative, it reinforces this growing perception that getting Jones in the cage with the most dangerous heavyweights had become incredibly difficult. The constant negotiations, the unprecedented financial demands, the perceived avoidance of certain matchups, it all pointed to a champion who, after being pushed to his absolute limits by Reyes and feeling genuinely vulnerable for perhaps the first time in his career, had become incredibly selective about his opposition. This led to a widespread feeling among hardcore MMA fans of unfulfilled potential, of super fights that should have happened but didn't, and serious questions about whether the Jon Jones of old would have been so hesitant to take on the biggest challenges available. The psychological impact of that Reyes fight seemed to have fundamentally changed how Jones approached risk versus reward in his career decisions.
Whether or not you would fight Tom Aspinall. That's conversations to have with Dana and Hunter. We have some negotiating to do. And if everything goes right, maybe we'll give you guys what you want to see.
From day one, I've been confident that Jon Jones would do that fight.
I would love to fight Jon Jones, mate. Fight Jon Jones for it, that would be pretty cool. I want to fight Jon Jones, man.
Hey, I'm not going to do this Saturday. You don't want to do it? No, because it's going to be an Aspinall fest. I'm not going to. Let's go.
Would you guarantee 100% we see that fight?
But wait, here's where it gets even more complicated. Enter Tom Aspinall, the legitimate, hungry, incredibly dangerous interim heavyweight champion who had been absolutely tearing through the division like a buzzsaw. Aspinall represented everything that makes a champion nervous: youth, power, speed, technical skill, and most importantly, nothing to lose and everything to gain. The pressure started mounting immediately for Jones to unify the titles and face this new threat. This situation perfectly encapsulates the mounting pressure Jones was facing to fight the next generation of heavyweight talent, these young lions coming for his throne. Post-Reyes, Jones' career had become increasingly marked by delays, extended negotiations, unfulfilled superfights that fans desperately wanted to see, and now the rise of a legitimate new threat in Aspinall that he seemed reluctant to engage with. The conversations he reportedly had to have with Dana White and Hunter Campbell, the constant back and forth over terms and conditions, once again highlighted just how difficult it had become to secure Jones' fights against top contenders. It was cementing this perception among fans and media that his risk aversion, his unwillingness to take dangerous fights without perfect circumstances, had dramatically increased since the Reyes scare showed him he was human after all.
Aspinall.
I'll see you guys later.
That's it.
He gave them a price tag. He said, I'll do it for this number.
What number?
I believe it's in the $30 million range. They eventually got to the $30 million. Jon said he was in.
Jon Jones was offered the deal and accepted the deal.
Does that mean Jon Jones has agreed?
I don't think so, but I think I don't know what in all honesty, Jon Jones is like, nobody knows what he's doing, even the UFC.
He hasn't signed a contract there.
And here's where this whole saga reaches peak insanity. Jon Jones puts an astronomical $30 million price tag on fighting Tom Aspinall. $30 million. Let me put that in perspective. That's more than most UFC champions make in their entire careers combined. This number seemed almost designed to be rejected, like he was pricing himself out of the fight intentionally. But here's the kicker: reports suggested that the UFC initially agreed to meet this incredible demand, which should have been the end of the story. Fight booked, massive payday secured, legacy on the line. But instead, we get this confusing back and forth about what Jones actually wanted, what his real intentions were, showing just how unpredictable and chaotic his decision-making had become in this post-Reyes era. The astronomical financial demands, the endless negotiations that seemed to go nowhere, the constant uncertainty about whether he'd actually step in there and fight. These became the defining characteristics of this period of his career. It really shows how the mental and physical toll of the Reyes fight, that realization that he could actually lose, coupled with an understandable desire for financial security after years of being underpaid compared to boxers, led Jones down this path where record-breaking money became the primary motivation for taking fights, rather than simply facing the next challenge because it was there.
And then 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever, he said, nah, on second thought, I'm out. And once he said he was out, he was never back in.
It's done, but it's not done.
There is nowhere that you can find publicly, nowhere, him saying that he will fight me.
If there were to be a fight legacy worth it, it would be Alex Pereira.
Do you have a cut-off point in your mind of when to get that?
No, it's going to happen. It's. I guarantee you, this fight's going to happen. This fight's going to happen. Fight's going to happen.
Not a chance. I will retire Jon Jones without even fighting him.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
So here we are at what might be the final chapter of the Jon Jones story. And honestly, it's not the ending anyone expected. Jones apparently accepts a deal to fight Aspinall. Contracts are ready to sign. Everything seems set for this massive unification bout. And then out of nowhere, he says, "I'm out, I'm done," and announces his retirement, leading to Tom Aspinall being declared the undisputed heavyweight champion in his absence. This erratic behavior, this final refusal to fight the legitimate next contender who had earned his shot through dominant performances, really encapsulates what many see as the most disappointing aspect of Jones' legendary career. The fire, that relentless, unstoppable pursuit of greatness that defined his early career when he was running through legends like they were amateur fighters, seemed to have been extinguished by the Ray's fight and what it revealed about his mortality. It left us with a champion who, after one too many close calls and one too many moments of genuine doubt, ultimately chose to walk away from competition rather than consistently face the toughest challenges head on the way the old Jon Jones would have done without hesitation. The psychological warfare that Dominic Reyes started in their fight preparation didn't just affect one fight. It fundamentally changed the trajectory of one of the greatest careers in MMA history. So there you have it. One fight, one moment of vulnerability, and everything changed for Jon Jones. The Reyes fight didn't just crack his aura of invincibility. It shattered his willingness to take risks, led to years of inactivity, massive money demands, and ultimately a premature exit from the sport rather than facing the next generation of killers. This isn't just about one controversial decision or one close fight. This is about how psychological warfare can have consequences that last for years, affecting not just a fighter's confidence, but their entire approach to legacy and competition. Here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think Jon Jones would have handled his heavyweight run differently if the Reyes fight had never happened? Or was this cautious, money-focused approach inevitable as he got older? If this breakdown helped you understand how one fight can change everything about a legendary career, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell because the heavyweight division is about to get even more interesting with Aspinall as the new undisputed champion. I'll see you in the next one.